First question, Jonathan Fagan.
Hi, Steve. Christian Wood said he feels 100%. Did he see? You seem amused. Is that how it looked to you? And do you view him as back and ready to go tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, he looked good in the limited practice that we had and stuff. He obviously hasn't done much in the last little while besides treatment. So it'll be interesting to see what his game wind looks like. So, we'll see. We'll see. But if he says he feels 100%, then he must be pretty close.
How do you handle the mix now at that position, particularly given whatever uncertainty you have about his readiness and so on?
Yeah, it's going to be just kind of reading it and talking to the performance team and coming up with a plan and dealing with that plan based on how he looks in the first 5 minutes of the game and then how he looks after the first, quarter, and just kind of taking it quarter by quarter and making sure that he is in good shape, that his ankle's good, and he's ready to play. So it's going to be I don't know. I have a lot of thought that needs to go into that situation at the 5 spot.
Thank you.
Michael Shapiro. Michael. All right, we'll move on.
Hi, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, it cut out. Hi, Steve. Hi, Steven. There's obviously been a lot of transition on the roster and plenty of injuries. How has John Lucas helped with kind of the transition and the difficulties of the season thus far?
He has been invaluable. His relatability to the players, his experience. He comes into my office every day with 2 or 3 things that usually I hadn't even thought about that are pertinent to the relationships that I need to have with players, and talking to this player or talking to that player, or thinking about ways to get guys better integrated into the team on both ends of the floor. His tactical knowledge is, at the top of the league. He's seen it all and done it all. But the player development piece, where we have young guys coming into the game ready to play after not playing for a long time, that's him. And I am so thankful and grateful to him that he's here, because I rely on him immensely, being a first-time head coach. But I feel like even if I'd been in the league for 10 years, I'd need John Lucas to be on my staff because he's that valuable.
Thank you, Coach.
Adam Spollen.
Stephen, just to clarify really quick, is Christian going to play tomorrow?
Yeah, he's questionable, but as far as I'm concerned, he's playing. We just have to wait and see tomorrow how he reacts to getting up and down today and jumping a little bit and making sure that the ankle is good. But if he's good, he's playing.
And the 3 guards with John, Vic, and Eric, is the effectiveness of that group, does it kind of increase because they kind of check every box that you would want from a guard in today's game, but they all kind of have different strengths?
Yeah, they do. And did you ask me yesterday whether all 3 were going to play together? And I was like, no. And then they had so I lied. Yes, I didn't expect it, but yeah, they all 3 play together. And you're right. They all are the same but different. They are switchable guys who can defend multiple positions. They are versatile on the offensive end, where Eric can stretch the defense a little bit more than the other guys. John can be more like a pick and roll passer, downhill type guy. And then Vic as far as coming off screens and curling into the paint or getting into an isolation game and getting into the paint, that sort of thing. He has, game, and all three of them have game, but different type game. So your question is right on point as far as those guys being very similar and the ability to play all three of them together, but different in complementary ways.
And does it work defensively too?
Yeah, it works defensively. It depends on who we're playing against, obviously. But I trust, Eric defending the post, and I haven't really seen Vic defend the post very much. But the couple of times that he's done it, he actually stole the ball from whoever the post player was, and then John can hold his own down there as well. So. The defending bigger guys, I don't think is too much of a problem for those three. So those guys playing to their strengths as far as their quickness and their hands, it makes us a pretty good defensive team.
Ben DeBose.
Coach, now that you've had a few days at home and a couple of practices, is there a sense for where Kevin is at with his integration, and is there some sort of idea as to his timetable and expectations moving forward?
Yeah, we're kind of still trying to work through that, and he's been here and he's been great. He's been attentive, and we've been doing like individual stuff with him, as well as today he joined the team stuff, and we're just integrating him slowly, and we're coming up with a plan that makes sense for him and for the team, because he hasn't played in a while, and he's kind of just learning, and he's a young kid. But he's very talented. But like I said, when he first got here, we have to make sure that we're really, really smart about the structure that we have put in place for him on and off the floor.
𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧.
Hello, Coach. Christian Wood is on his way to return. And also you have Victor Oladipo, John Wall, 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗛, Eric Gordon. How different will going to be the dynamic and the look of the team on the court?
Probably wouldn't be too different. I mean, we play 5 out regardless of who's on the floor. We're trying to get the football up the floor quickly, and that was one of the things that I talked to the team about today, as far as playing with better pace, getting the ball up the floor, and also playing from one side of the floor to the other, doing a better job of that. But we really won't look that much different depending on who's on the floor. We are deep with our guys like 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗛 and Tate and Brown as well, and House is back now as well. So we have a bunch of different ways that we can go, and it's up to me to kind of figuring out how to solidify that and get guys in comfortable roles, and not having to manage the minutes like I've had to over the last little while, just based on who's actually active and able to play.
And about Eric Gordon, how important for you is to have a player like him coming off from the bench and make so big impact on offense?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. It makes a big impact on both ends of the floor, and his veteran, savvy, and he just has a calm about him that is good for our group. And for him to start a few games and play really well, and then the next game come off the bench and play really well, which is something that I didn't really necessarily want to do with him. I didn't want him to have to be jumping back from starting to going back to the bench. And I talked to him about it yesterday, and it looks like that might be just something that has to happen based on injuries and that sort of thing. But he is more than ready for it, and he showed it last night and the games before that.
We'll take 2 more. 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗡𝗖𝗧.
Steven, another question regarding Eric. He's shooting a career high 61% inside the 3-point line. It's about 10 points higher than any time in his Rockets career. What do you attribute to his effectiveness inside the paint and inside scoring? And do you prefer him? I know you mentioned earlier with Oladipo and Wall, kind of the differences and how they can be utilized. When he's by himself on the court or he's with one of them, what type of role do you want him to be in? Is it off those curls, or is that a pick and roll?
Yeah, so when he's on the floor by himself, he needs to get us organized, and he's more of a pick and roll player when he's out there by himself, just by the nature of being the point guard, the initiator, the person to bring the ball up the floor. When he's off the floor, when he's on the floor with those other guys, there's room for him to drive the ball, and there's actions where he's coming off screens and can curl and get into the paint and be a paint finisher. And he has shown really good quickness off his first jab or off the catch, or maybe even off like a 1 or 2 dribbles to go and take advantage. And I think it has to do with 2 things: the ability of our 5 men to space at the top of the floor, so that takes one helper kind of out of the way a little bit, and then our ability to space deep in the corner. So when he has the ball on the wing, he's really taking advantage of driving angles and mismatches where he's driving the ball into the paint. So the 2 things that are allowing him to get to 61%, I think, are him coming off pin downs and that sort of thing, and then the spacing that allows him to drive the ball.
Thank you.
Mark Berman.
Stephen, getting back to Christian, he said when he mentioned that he felt 100% and felt he's back, he said he tried to play on the injured ankle, doesn't know if it was a good idea or a bad idea, but he wanted to do what was best for the team. As the head coach, what's your counsel when dealing with a player who was hurt, wants to try to play through it, which could make it worse, perhaps keep him out longer? How do you handle all that now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really rely on the performance team, Jason Biles in particular, Keith Jones as well, trying to just get a feel for how bad is it? Has it started to swell? Is there some long-term damage that could happen if he plays on it, and that sort of thing? So yeah, the how the player feels matters a little bit, but I would say more the performance team and their experience and the study that they do on the ankle itself really dictates whether I'm going to allow him to play or not.
𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗚𝗘𝗖𝗧.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, everyone knows the work you did last year with Dallas. Having them as the best offensive team of all time. But with the team now embracing a defensive identity, did you ever envision that in terms of just building a team brick by brick and just trying to be the grit and grind that you guys have shown the last, week and a half?
Yes and no. I mean, coming into it, I thought our roster was obviously going to look very different than it does look right now. The common theme is always defense and the offense. I think my first year in Dallas, we were like middle of the road when it came to the offense. And then last year, obviously, we had a great year, but it takes a lot to number one, change from one style to another, but then really starting to get the reads and the spacing and everybody feeling comfortable with their role basically on the offensive end. So I know that offense usually takes a little bit longer, but the defensive part is a little bit more effort-based, technique-based, and a little less like being comfortable with who you're on the floor with. Like if there's a baseline drive, we know where our help's coming from. And if we're in a pick and roll, we know our protection spots and that sort of thing. So that has less to do with who's on the floor and more to do with how we're doing it. But with the offensive part, with the bunch of different lineups that we've had and the lack of ball handlers in some games and the introduction of new people and that sort of thing, it's not surprising to me that our offense isn't as good as it's going to be.
Thank you, Coach.